Welcome into After Nebrasketball. I'm Jack Mitchell. That is Kaleb Henry. We have Jacob Bigelow joining us soon. Glad to have you with us. Nebraska 86, Fairleigh Dickinson 60. Glad to have you with us along the I-80 Club YouTube page, the Husker Max YouTube page. Some of you may be listening to us on podcast after the fact. We'll have Jacob, as I said, Jacob Bigelow will be joining us here in just a few minutes, but we are ready to delve into a Nebraska win. They do go to 3-0 on the night with the win 86-60 against Fairleigh Dickinson. Leading scorer tonight for Nebraska was Berke Buchengel, Juwan Gary with 19. Berke Buchengel was second with 12. Gary had 19. Brice Williams with 10. Those were the three Huskers in double figures. Nebraska had a good night, a better night in terms of assist to turnover ratio, had a better night in terms of rebounds that they had last week, but did continue to have problems hitting the shots from outside, did continue to have some problems hitting field goals and layups, and we're going to get into all of that tonight. Kaleb, first of all, good evening. Welcome.
Hello. You're throwing out a lot of analyst bull crap already, and I know we have to get into that. Brice Williams, beardless. Go.
Don't like it. Don't like it as a bearded man myself.
Yes.
No, yeah, not a bit. I mean, listen, he can do what he wants. He's a good-looking man either way, but I there was kind of a gruff sort of elder statesman look with the beard that I really liked. We'll see if he brings it back. He might bring it back after tonight, to be honest. We'll see. Your thoughts, Kaleb, being at the Pinnacle Bank Arena for this game tonight?
I mean, it felt like for a lot of the game a Wednesday night against a team that most fans probably don't know exists. Like that's just the feeling in Pinnacle Bank Arena. But it was nice, despite the slow start, to have the defense take over. They go to those small ball lineups that kind of not only energize the team, but energize the crowd. You stretch that lead out to 20. The second half, it creeps up a little bit, but you stretch it back out over 20 again. Don't really ever make it a game. The defense and getting to the free throw line, that's the game plan for this team right now. No Braxton Mia, barely see Andrew Morgan. Berke starts at the 5. They go to some small ball lineups without him a lot of the time. He only plays 25 minutes. It was just an interesting game that I'm curious to know what would the game plan have looked like if Mia was healthy. Because things worked really well when you got to those small ball lineups. Not that they were necessarily jacking threes, those kinds of things, but it was intriguing to see them go that direction as opposed to us having previous conversations about going to like a tall ball lineup, like Berke at the 3 type of a thing. So it was nice to see them come out and not be close at the end to make so many free throws, get to the line as much as they did, have defense really carry the day, and the poor shooting continues.
Yeah, the shooting is rough, and it's layups, Kaleb. It's 3-pointers. There's nothing that looks easy when it comes to field goals for Nebraska. Even though tonight, here's the weird thing about this tonight. Like I watched that game, and my frustration was, man, there is just nothing. Listen, I'm not into advanced analytics, those sorts of things. This is not a Moneyball thing. You got to make baskets to win basketball, and they're not making enough to win significantly going forward. That said, the offense was significantly better tonight generally. Would you agree? Like the assist to turnover ratio was much better tonight. They had 20 assists tonight in the game.
Assists. Some of that is that small ball lineup. Think about that. The number of guys that you have on the floor that are used to passing the ball in a way that Braxton Mia and Andrew Morgan don't, so like you didn't have either of them at the 5 at any time. Berke played well. Did he even have any turnovers? He had a turnover, and he was a 3-to-1 assist to turnover. Yep. But you didn't have him out there with those smaller lineups where it's a lot of guys who are used to handling the ball, who are used to making the extra pass, and they made a lot of those tonight. And Aaron Eulis, he continues to play really well in that backup role. He had his first turnover of the season tonight. Like, think about that. It took him into the third game. Not that he's getting like a lot of minutes, but it took to the third game to get to that. It was nice to see that part of the game go away. The just atrocious turnover after atrocious turnover, so that when they were getting to the free throw line and they're not shooting well. How's about this, though? They're not shooting well, but they end up shooting 43% for the game. Like, really, where we're saying they're not shooting well is from three. Like, that's what it is, because they shot 25% from deep.
I'm surprised it was 43 because it felt like they missed so many layups again.
I know.
Like, that's the thing. I don't know where those 43 came from. To be that 43% ended up coming from on that. I'm trying to look.
They made 14 shots both halves.
Yeah.
They shot 33 times in the first half, 32 in the second half. But
so it's about the same, both halves, exactly.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah, both halves were pretty close, but it's the 7 for 28 from three. Missed the first 6 of the game. Didn't hit a 3 until there was almost 6 minutes left in the first half.
Right.
Like, that's the issue on the shooting.
Guys who were hitting their shots, Eulis was 4 for 5 field goals. Berke was 4 for 6. Juwan was 5 for 9. Those were, and then, after that, you got guys who were shooting from outside more. And maybe this is what it is more than anything, Kaleb. It's just that Brice can't find it right now. He just can't find it, in terms of, wow, that is a raucous environment that you've got going on.
People are very happy. People are very happy.
Very
I don't know why. Yeah, Brice, he had 27 in the opening game.
Yeah.
And
even that was a lot of free throws. But
it was a lot of free throws. Like we said at the time, he went 19 minutes between made shots because he was getting the free throw line, making so many free throws. I don't know what it is. I think he was obviously trying to do a little bit something different, where it was get rid of the facial hair. Maybe things feel a little fresher, feel a little different. I don't know. Yeah, like people go through things where they want to go, I need to make a change, and hopefully this leads to something. That wasn't there tonight. That just wasn't the case. But he still helps out with 6 rebounds on the night, gets to double figures scoring because he goes 6 for 7 at the line, has a block shot and a steal. Like, he's still impacting the game. But this is someone that we talked about in the preseason. I think everyone can see it when you look at this team. They are so dangerous if he can get it going offensively, if he can be making shots.
Yeah, that's what that is the biggest thing this offense is missing right now, right? That is by far the biggest hole in this offense is him being who he needs to be for this team to be. And like at the beginning of the game, I was thinking, man, he needs more shots. He ended up with 9. He was 2 for 9 for the game. He got 10 points, 6 for 7 free throws though. 0 for 2 from 3. So he did end up getting some shots up, but nothing looked smooth. Nothing looked easy. It wasn't, like a quiet 23 Brice night, that type of situation. And so like that right now is the biggest hole in this offense. Let's bring in Bigelow. We've got him joining us right now. Oh no, we need to let's see. I need to get a different here. There we go.
3 wide. There we go.
That looks much better.
Hello, boys.
Hello, welcome, Jacob Bigelow, joining us right now, fresh off the Nebraska press conference. Jacob, let's start right away with what you just heard from Hoiberg and potentially others at the press conference.
Yeah, so I'm sure, just as everyone expected before this game, the players we heard from afterwards were Caleb Jacobson, Sam Hoiberg, and Aaron Eulis. That was the triumvirate of players that we got to hear from after the game tonight, but they all played big roles. I mean, how about the spark that we got at the end of the first half from Cale and Sam, including, the instance where Sam Hoiberg is falling into the stands and he saves it, and Cale ends up feeding him for a layup at the other end. And then Aaron Eulis, I thought he played really well. He pushed the pace. He wanted to put an emphasis on playing downhill, getting to the basket. So we heard that from the three of them. And then hearing from Fred Hoiberg, he was really impressed with just his buzz phrase of the night was playing under control. Compared to Saturday night against Bethune-Cookman, where it felt like they may have been, pushing too, forcing stuff, pushing too hard. He felt like they were more under control tonight, and especially, to close the first half and then to put the game away at the end.
Curious what you thought then, Jacob, about the game, and particularly the contrast between this game and what you saw in Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, I mean, tough to, I kind of thought this game would be a little choppy. I mean, they're still trying to get used to playing with each other, right? Like that's still my biggest thing is the flow just isn't there quite yet. And Fred Hoiberg said, during his availability that, he said, one of these nights, I promise we're going to take the lid off the basket and it's going to be really fun when we do.
Cool.
But yeah, we're still waiting on it. We're still waiting on it.
Yeah, I'm there. I'll be ready.
Yeah, everyone will be ready. But I mean, tonight, Juwan Gary continues to do a little bit of everything for this team. He's kind of, there are some instances he's the guy where if he's pulling threes, you're kind of like wincing a little bit. Okay, but if they're falling, they only made what? Got it here. They only made 7 of them tonight. I think he had a couple. Yeah. So to see.
Yeah, he was 2 for 5. He had 2 of the 7 for 28. Gary was 2 for 5.
Yeah, but Brice Williams being able, I think the biggest thing for me was they found a way to get it done when Brice Williams wasn't on his A game. It was a pretty tough night for him. He started off like 1 of 8, 1 of 9, and then he had the run where they cut it down to 6. Well, no, not 6, 9, where FDU cut it down to 9, and he scored or assisted on the next 7 points. So that was good to see from him. But tough night at the office for him overall. But it's, as cliche as it sounds, total team win. They have 11 guys scored with a couple, garbage time walk-on buckets from Henry Pert and Jeff Grace to add to that total. But, when you're one bona fide dude isn't having a night and you've got guys who can step up, there are only 2 other guys in double figures, but, 11 guys scored. So, there's definitely plenty of room for improvement. It's far from a finished product, but at the same time, it also gets turned up to 11, with St. Mary's on Sunday and then the Creighton game on Friday. It's getting getting dialed up a notch from Bethune-Cookman and Fairleigh Dickinson to St. Mary's and Creighton.
I'm going to quit.
Yeah, but it's going to be, Jack, it's going to be really nice if going into these next 2 games, because like we said, the Creighton game comes up so quickly, and obviously St. Mary's this weekend, where we're happy Bigelow is going to go take the I-80 Club train to Sioux Falls. But you're averaging 30 free throws a game right now. Like that's ridiculous.
These games are brutal to watch. Okay, let me just say that. They are really hard to watch when there are this many free throws and this few made threes, okay? Like it's over. They won by 26 and I still feel sort of crabby after this whole thing is over. And by the way, they almost got a late bucket. They almost got close to covering after this was all over. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, Kaleb, but it's just I think that's part of it is just they are getting these teams that they're playing right now, and I think this will change when they play better defensive teams, but like they are just really foul heavy in the way that they're defending them, and we've seen that so far.
Yeah, they really are. And on the other end, like Nebraska's not fouling, in a way that is putting the other team to the line. Nebraska still fouled 15 times, but these teams aren't getting to the line in the same way. Fairleigh Dickinson only shoots 11 free throws tonight, makes 7 of them. The other teams, like you start out the first game with UTRG, LMNOP, and they're shooting so many threes that they're not trying to get to the line, get inside in that same way. And you haven't seen that over the last couple of games either. Jacob, I'm curious for you. You get the small ball lineups, and especially because there's no Braxton Mia tonight, where you think, cool, that's always super fun to use the buzzer after the game. But no Braxton Mia, you go to the small ball, and he's supposed to be your rim protector. Nebraska blocked 6 shots tonight.
Griffiths had 3 of them on 1 possession, so okay.
He's only credited for 2. He's only credited for 2.
I might have been overestimating. It felt like 3 to me.
Just to respond to that, I mean, we did hear from Fred. I guess he'd said on the pregame show that it was an ankle. He said postgame that Braxton probably could have played. He had just a little swelling, and they didn't want to risk anything. Didn't want him to go out there and tweak it. So that's why we were without him tonight. But I mean, there were instances where Cale Jacobson was your small ball 5, where Juwan Gary was your 5, and Fred said he liked the way that those lineups looked. I do want the record to show that I was the first person to call it the fun-sized lineup when they had the lineup toward the end of the first half. I want the record to show that I was the first person.
Wait, were you getting copied?
No,
were people stealing that? Do I need to call anybody out?
No,
do I need to call any members of the media for copy?
Are we going?
I'll do it.
Are we going with fun-sized? Like volleyball has the littles, and I liked the comparison to calling them the littles lineups, the smalls.
No, I like fun size. That's good. Bigelow owns that. That's good.
There we go.
Trademark Bigelow.
Add that to my list of bits. Add that to the list.
Bigelow brand.
Speaking of fun size, the most dynamic and fun the offense looked was at the end of the first half when they had Hoiberg, Berke, Asesian, let's see who else was in on that lineup.
Sam Hoiberg,
and what's his name from Ashland? He doesn't even play, so I can't even remember his name.
Cale Jacobson,
Jacobson. That was there was a couple minute stretch where that was the most exciting the offense looked the entire night, and I think it ended that way. No, I think so.
It's similar, it definitely ended similar to that. Yeah, I'm trying to go back and find what
you had a long stretch though, guys, where you had that small lineup. You had Cale Jacobson out there, but Berke wasn't even on the floor. Like you had a stretch where on the bench was Berke, Andrew Morgan, Juwan Carey, Brice Williams, Aaron Eulis. Like those guys were all on the bench for you, and those guys would have been a fun 5. But they were all on the bench, and your team was rolling.
Yeah, they closed the first half with Worcester, Hoiberg, Asesian, Jacobson, and Griffiths. That was what I called the fun
maybe that's
size
what I was
lineup.
thinking. Maybe
that was what I called the fun size lineup at the end of the first half. But I mean, and that's just, and I've known Cale Jacobson since he was a sophomore in high school, so I'm a little biased. I mean, that dude's a gamer, that dude's a winner. He's got all the coach cliches that you're going to hear referred to walk-ons as. But Gym rat, lives, coach on the floor, all of that. That all applies to Cale Jacobson. So I've got a little bias when it comes to him. But I mean, that's Nebraska's 11th guy. And Fred said as much after the game. He's like, Cale was the 10th guy in a 9-man rotation last year. Right now, he's the 11th guy in a 10-man rotation. And he's able to get into games and have that kind of impact. So that's good on him. That's a testament to him.
What do you think with him, Jacob? Do you think there's more of this with him? Do you think he's got a role? Once we get, we're going to see him doing, having a little bit of game time against St. Mary's or Creighton, you think? And what role, if so, what role is that?
I don't know about the next two, but I think there's definitely a role for him. I mean, just ask who he was sitting next to at the podium tonight, Sam Hoiberg. I mean, 2, undersized guards, but they're scrappy spark plug type guys who, Sam Hoiberg said as much. He's like, I think I speak for all three.
Scrappy spark plug. Man, you got it.
I got all the coaching cliches.
Coach on the floor,
It's almost like I wanted to be a basketball coach at one point. So I know all the coaching cliches. But Sam Hoiberg said as much tonight. He's like, I think I speak for all 3 of the guys up here when I say that, none of us are going to go out there and drop 30, but we're going to do the little things that it takes to win games. And Fred Hoiberg has harped on, we need to do the little things right. You have guys who, are doing them wrong. And when we do them all well and we're fundamentally sound, good things can happen. And, as corny and cliche as it is, leave it to the scrappy white walk-ons to come in and be the guys that are doing the little things right.
Yeah. Again,
just gritty. It
wasn't gritty when they were in on offense. It was the prettiest. It wasn't gritty. It was pretty. It was the prettiest the offense looked the entirety of the night when they were in.
Here is one of the offensive possessions. Think about the number of times that Sam Hoiberg touches the ball on offense. Usually it might be once. There was a stretch. He had the ball. He drove, got kind of stuck, kicked it back out. They gave it back to him, and I was like, it's kind of weird. You don't usually go back to Sam Hoiberg unless it's end of shot clock. He's wide open in the corner for a 3. He gives it up. They get the ball. Then they give the ball back to him again. That's 3 times in the possession that he has the ball, and they end up scoring. I think they hit a 3 out of it. But that's what happens when you have some of these guys who are used to just giving the ball up. They're not the guy when they're out there. So Cale Jacobson and Sam Hoiberg and Aaron Eulis, like the guys who are going to their pass first when they're out there, but to go back to Sam 3 times on a possession, that was baffling to me.
Sam's got to shoot. I'm sorry. Sam has got to get a little bit more assertive on offense when he's in there.
He did, and he got his stuff blocked.
I don't care. He has got to get – he is passing – I thought the same thing against Bethune-Cookman a couple of times. He had open shots he's not taking. This offense has got to take open shots when they've got him. I think he's got to be more aggressive on offense if he's going to play the minutes he did. I mean, look, goodness sakes, you guys. He played I'm looking at the numbers. He played 22 minutes tonight. He played more than Raleigh Worcester did.
And he led Nebraska.
No, it was okay. Yeah, it was 23 minutes, and he was plus 22 in his plus minus.
23 minutes and 20. Yeah, you're right. 23. But he played 23 minutes. Worcester played 19. Okay, Eulis played 20. Like Griffiths played 23 also. Essesian played 17. Sam was one of the biggest. He played more minutes than only a few players. There's only a few players who played more minutes than he did. I don't know. I just think I'm not saying I need him to be putting up crap loads of shit. He passes up opportunities, I think, to score. If he's at a point in his career where he doesn't need to be passive about the occasional chance to score, in my opinion.
No, and especially from the 3-point line. That's the one. Like there are times that he gets inside and it's a nice reverse layup, but he does. You're right, Jack. He only took 4 shots tonight, made one of them, didn't take a single 3 within those. So that's the part where, if he's in the corner, and it doesn't have to be end of the shot clock. If it's the first pass and the guy is giving him room, if he can take that shot, now teams have to guard him out there. And what does that do for everyone else on the floor? It spaces things out. So you're right. I agree with you. He does need to be a little bit more aggressive, especially if there's a chance for him to knock down a 3, because he does shoot it at a high clip.
He's taken 10 shots this year. He made 1 field goal against what was that tonight against Fairleigh Dickinson? Yeah. He made his first field goal of the year tonight. But he'd taken 10. He was 0 for 5 against Bethune-Cookman, was 0 for 3 from 3. Only took 1 shot against RGVGQ asterisk number sign American flag emoji. But I don't know. That's just one thing I've noticed. But I still don't know. It's just odd because I was surprised when I looked at the stats tonight and saw how much improved the assist to turnover ratio was, especially from last week. It's the best. It's the best it's been this year. And I didn't necessarily, Jacob, I didn't necessarily notice that during the course of the game. I'm curious what you thought. Were you surprised to see that after the fact, or maybe you were watching the numbers? So
yeah, I wasn't so surprised. I mean, I thought they looked crisper. I mean, there weren't as many dead ball turnovers, obviously, and I mean that's about. I mean, Fred said afterwards that they need to get as close as 2-1 as possible. Assist to turnover, and they were all pretty close tonight. I mean 20 assists on 28 makes from the field is pretty damn good too.
I agree, statistically it's good. It just still felt like the offense had a decent amount of struggles, and then to see those stats I was like, well, that's good, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, and aesthetically, I think people are gonna feel I'm not saying this is the pinnacle of college basketball by any means, but I mean, when the threes aren't falling, obviously people are gonna think aesthetically that it's a tough watch and a tough hang.
It's probably it.
I mean, and that's what Fred was alluding to. He's like, when the threes start falling, maybe people won't feel like this is as tough of a hang as it really is. But I mean, they were in the paint. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, they've shown the ability to score in the paint. I mean, we're just kind of waiting for the threes to fall.
Yeah, there's a part of me that keeps expecting. I think you're right, not making threes, and then it's not having. And they made points in the paint, but it's not. I think I keep expecting Brice to be driving more, right, and creating points at the rim, a la James
He gets
Palmer,
fouled. That's why he's getting to the free throw line.
A la Tran Petaway, right? Like these guys that we've seen that have really just been able to create and make their own points. And we haven't seen that from him yet so far. So maybe that's a big part of it too. Maybe you're right, Caleb. Maybe they're just so aggressive fouling him. And what did he have free throws tonight? 7, 6 for 7.
6 of 7. Yeah.
Yep. 6 of 7 tonight. So
yeah, I think that's where it is for him. You're right though. It's going to feel different for him because like he had a couple of dunks, 1 or 2 dunks. Well, he made 2 shots. But it's going to feel a lot different if Brice knocks down, say, 2 threes, and then they guard him out a little bit more, and there's some space, and he can blow by somebody, and he can get into the lane a little bit more. And if they don't foul him and he's able to make some of the shots, because maybe he's just out of rhythm because when he does get inside, they foul him almost every time, and he's making free throws, but he's not seeing that ball go in on a turnaround in the paint. He's not seeing that ball go in on a tough layup in the same way that it feels different as a scorer to put that ball through the rim as opposed to get to the free throw line and you're like, okay, well now I have to make both of these instead of, oh, I had a pretty tough shot. It would have been nice to just make that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I mean, and it's all mental. I mean, I can hit you guys with all the coaching cliches I can, but we don't want to do that for the rest of the show. But I mean, a lot of it's going to be mental, and you just got to see him fall. And Fred said as much on Monday when he was dishing out zingers, but he was just, sometimes the basket looks as big as the ocean, and sometimes it's a little like nail hole, and it's just all mental,
Thimble.
right? And he's Thimble. That's the word.
Yeah,
but I mean, and he's one of the best. He led the league in 3-point shooting his last season in the NBA. So if anyone knows a thing or two about threes and the mentality that goes into it, I'll take Fred Hoiberg.
And he said it's coming. He said it. You heard him say it. He said it on the radio show on KLIN afterwards as well. But I'm curious, guys. Is it not? Are they taking good shots? Are they open? Are we concerned about who the shooters are on this team and they just don't have them? Is it just a streak of bad luck? What's your biggest thought on the 3-point shooting so far, since it's clearly the biggest issue with the offense right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2 Big Ten transfers are the keys for me when it comes to 3-point shooting, and it's Asian and Griffiths. And Asian takes, and they're the 2 who took the most attempts tonight. Asian took 7, made 2. Griffiths took 6, made 2. And I think those 2 and their outside shooting is kind of, I mean, yes, it's November, and now's not the time to overreact and overthink. But I think the ceiling of this team is going to be greatly impacted by those 2 getting it going from 3. That's why you brought them in. They're experienced guys. They've played in the league. They know the league. They know what it takes to win in the league. And you'd think that going from playing for Greg Gard and Steve Peichel to playing for Fred Hoiberg would give you more, opportunity to have free-flowing, threes, catch and shoot threes, all of those. So I think it starts with those guys. I also think it was encouraging to see Berke make his first 3 of the year, in the right corner, right in front of the bench. He hadn't made one until tonight. And he remains the international man of mystery on this team. Yeah. He really does. And I agree. I think that those 3, all ironically enough, Big Ten transfers, technically guys that came in from other Big Ten schools. Those are the 3 guys that I'm keeping my eye on the most, because I don't think you're going to see Brice Williams look like he looked tonight every night. But when he is looking like he did tonight, those are the 3 leading candidates to step up and pick up the slack.
And the only of that group you talked about, Asian hit 3 for 4 in the first game. Nobody else has lit it up from 3 in that group that you've talked about so far either. Caleb, do you have?
And I think those are your 3 candidates for immediate energy into Pinnacle Bank Arena as well. But Berke, we love international players here. Like you can go like Thor, you can go back to a whole bunch of guys.
International players.
Yes. Yeah. We love the international players in Lincoln, Nebraska. But Berke is going to have some moments that the crowd really loves, and you gravitate towards an international player here in, for the most part, Lily White, Nebraska. That's just what it is. Then you go to someone who can light it up from 3. The crowd really likes that for Connor Asian. And I bring it up again, just like I did at our last After Nebrasketball, when Gavin Griffiths catches the ball and the crowd sees he's going to shoot, there is a different energy in this gym. It's not the same, but it's as close as to it is felt with Keisei Tominaga taking a shot. Gavin Griffiths is that energy guy that there's going to be a night sometime this season where Griffiths scores 20 off the bench. Him getting the ball and getting things going will have this place with the roof off, that it'll have us thinking of Keisei Tominaga. There is no one else on this team that is close to that right now for Pinnacle Bank Arena. Bear K can get the crowd, like any of the guys can get the crowd going. Esijan, if he's hitting threes, is going to get the crowd going, especially if he has just like a stupid good night. But Gavin Griffiths, still through 3 games, there's a different feeling in Pinnacle Bank Arena with him with the ball than anyone else on this team.
Well, and Jacob, that gives us a good opportunity to shift. I was just going to say, one of the big positives tonight, I thought, was what Griffiths did other than scoring the ball. He had several possessions in a row where he brought down key rebounds. He had a couple of blocks, as I was saying, during the course of the game. Thought played good defense throughout the night as well. I'm curious, outside of the 3-point shooting issues, the field goal percentages, really, when we talk about defense, rebounding, obviously that went well tonight. Nebraska ended up with a big rebounding advantage, ended up with 14 offensive rebounds tonight, and had a big rebounding advantage over Fairleigh Dickinson. What did you see outside of the offensive analysis that you liked tonight from this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest general thing, if someone who hasn't watched this team asks me what do you think of this Nebraska team, I'll tell them I think they can guard. I don't know if they can score. That's kind of my biggest general thought on this team. I think they
agree.
They can guard. I think they're not going to be afraid to pick guys up. Play 94 feet on defense if they have to. It's just a question of the offense right now. I mean, they've got guys who are willing to crash the glass, who are willing to, guard the other team's best guy. I mean, they've got all that so far, and I mean, they've shown it against lesser competition. But the reason that they've been able to pull away has been defense leading to offense, and I really do think they can guard. It's just a question about the other end of the floor for me right now. And I think if anyone hasn't watched this team yet, they didn't want to pay for BTN Plus, and they're going to tune in on Sunday. That's what you tell them about this Nebraska group.
Kaleb, your thoughts on the defense?
I mean, it was good. They forced 17 turnovers, scored 28 points off of those turnovers. That you're not seeing the ball go through the rim on offense. So shut them down and try to get a little bit on your end is really going to be helpful. This is something that you and I talked about on the Nebrasketball brunch show, with having all of this extra size, like Keisei being 6'2", but now your primary shooting guard, Brice Williams, he got time last year. He's 6'7", and Juwan Gary is 6'6", and your point guard is 6'5", and you have all of these giants inside at the 4 and the 5, and Gavin Griffiths comes in at 6'7". It's like you have so much of this that you were hoping that the defense would be better than they were a year ago, simply by being bigger and just as, if not more, athletic. And we're seeing that through the first 3 games. What we're not seeing is the offensive end with the ball going through the hoop. But at least when you're at home right now, your defense is taking care of business and you're getting to the free throw line. And hopefully the defense is the same thing, whether it's football or basketball. The defense travels, and you're going to need that when you go to Sioux Falls. You're going to need that defense to go with you, and hopefully you hit just a couple more shots, because if the defense travels for Nebraska against St. Mary's, they'll be in the game. If they can hit a couple more shots than what they've done through the first 3, they'll win that game running away.
There you go. Man, it's going to be interesting. Let's take a tiny bit of a look ahead at St. Mary's, and I'm going to go to Jacob. He's my guy who follows college basketball all over the country, the closest. What do you expect from St. Mary's on Sunday?
Well, Fred Hoiberg, this will be the last coach's cliche run-on I do, but he said they're going to have to bring their lunch pail. They're going to have to bring their hard hats to play St. Mary's on Sunday. So those are his words, not mine.
Making it rain
those,
cliches.
Those are his words, not mine. But I mean, St. Mary's, Randy Bennett, they play good offense. People probably always think that that's the only team Gonzaga plays in their conference is St. Mary's, but they're always going to be really good. They're always going to be fundamentally sound. They run good offense, and their roster is going to be very international. Their point guard is Augustus Marshallonis, son of Sojourner Marshallonis. So that is their point guard, and shout out Lithuania for me being able to pronounce that. But their two best players that they brought back were Marshallonis, and then I forget the other guy's name. I think it's Saxon. But they kind of had a get-right game last night against Akron. They won by 20 after two sluggish starts. They're big. They're going to crash the hell out of the boards, and
which hasn't been an issue at all yet for Nebraska. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are a big team. They're gonna. I mean, it's going to be it's going to feel like a Big Ten basketball game. That's for damn sure. It's going to feel like a Big Ten game, in my opinion. But St. Mary's, they still have some talent. They lost their best player to UConn in the transfer portal last year, Aiden Mahaney. But they bring back Marshallonis. And then they have – I'm just looking at their box score right now. This is great content, me looking at their box score. But they had 5 guys in double figures last night. 2 of those 5 came off the bench. They had a guy come in and have 18 off the bench. But, yeah, Marshallonis and then Saxon are their 2 best players. Those are the guys to know.
And if I remember, all their wins are against, top 150 type Ken Palm group of 5 teams, better group of 5 teams, right?
Yeah, solid mid-majors. They've played Towson, Chattanooga, and Akron, which isn't a lot to write home about, but that's definitely up a level of bye game.
I looked at them all. I think they were all above 150 in Ken Palm. So yeah,
those are all solid programs. So I mean, they're gonna play really smart. They're gonna play. I mean, Marshallonis is a dude, and so is Saxon. He's tough as hell. So I'm gonna be interested to see if Braxton Mia is available. Their leading scorer right now is also a fellow Lithuanian, Paulius Marauskis. He's their leading scorer right now. So Randy Bennett has made the switch from Australians to Lithuanians. Hey, they are taking over out in Moraga.
But you don't have to look intimidated by those pronunciations. We're bringing Bungton gel with us, so they got some of it coming their own way too.
Yeah, there's going to be a little international flavor. Probably the most international flavor Sioux Falls, South Dakota has had in a long time on Sunday at noon at the Pentagon. So
definitely true. The Empire Mall is the Empire Mall is not the United Nations. I can personally vouch for that.
Since you brought up Chattanooga, do you guys remember when Nebraska football wanted to play them in 2020?
People forget.
Was that who they wanted to fill in for the Kansas game?
People forget Nebraska was going to leave the Big Ten Conference to play Chattanooga.
And didn't they end up playing Bethune-Cookman?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Right?
Yeah. Bring it all back around. Right?
There we go.
Kaleb, one more thought from you. There's a part of me that's just we're going to analyze. This is what we're going to do in these post-game shows, analyze the numbers, everything that happened in these first 3 games. But it's to some degree, these bye games never tell the story of what these teams actually are to some degree. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what we are seeing is there's the potential for the offense to be very cold regardless of opponent. There's the potential for the defense to show up. There's the potential to get to the free throw line. That's really what you get out of these bye games, as long as you win. Like that's what you want. You want to learn from what is your team doing, and you want to learn about it in wins. It's going to be different when you get to this weekend. It's going to be different when you get to a week from Friday. But you're right. It's hard to know exactly what you have in your team through these bye games against teams that aren't going to look anything like what you're playing in January and February and hopefully in March. But yeah, it's what you what you learn about yourself in the moments where it's not the highest of levels. And Nebraska hasn't exactly run away from all three opponents. They've put together a couple of nice wins when you get to the end of the game, the way they've closed things out. And today wasn't particularly close for most of the game. So that was nice to see that. But what we know about Nebraska is the defense can certainly be there. They're going to be creative with the lineups if they have to be. The shots aren't falling, but they're finding a way to win because they're finding a way to get to the free throw line and help that out when the threes aren't falling. So it's still encouraging what we're seeing through these bye games, but it's going to be really hard to know anything until we get to Sunday and we get to next Friday and we get to mid-December when we get a couple of Big Ten games.
Yeah. And to the point I was trying to make, Brice Williams goes for 24. Looks like he did last year against against Illinois in that end of the year, the game they lost. I'm going to scrap these 3 games pretty easily in favor of that. Final thoughts, Bigelow, after this whole thing is over. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting turned up to 11, right? I mean, it's getting turned up to 11 on Sunday and Friday. It's going to be quite the step up. But, I mean, it's going to be – I mean, the Pentagon is a shooter's gym, so we'll see how that goes on Sunday. Anyone who's watching, who's maybe thinking about making the trip up, I can't encourage it enough. It's a really cool place to watch a basketball game. I'm excited to get to cover a game there for the second straight year, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting week for Nebraska basketball. And I know this is a Nebraska-specific show, but Minnesota lost to North Texas at home tonight by 3. So that is the first bad Big Ten loss of the season.
There it is.
The clock is ticking on the Ben Johnson era in Minneapolis. And you heard it here first. They're going to lose 2 in a row because they play Yale next. So the clock is ticking in Minneapolis. So that is going to be my call to end the
Bulldogs.
Hey, we thought that last year, and then he pulled him out of it, Jacob. He's a late season coach, I think.
We'll see. I definitely don't have any vested interest in who may take his job. I definitely have no interest in who could maybe be a candidate. I have no biases, nothing, none of that.
Oh, wow. Let's not do that.
Is it anything to do like John Kilometers? Is that the name?
Not him.
Okay.
If you want to go have a New Belgium beer in the city where New Belgium is, some folks who live there, they may have an interest in that job.
Okay, interesting. I'm Googling that really quickly now. I'm curious.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, I got it. Josh Yap says Bigelow bombs on the chat. By the way, Jordan on the chat says Washington's down 38-27 to Seattle Pacific. I also wanted to throw out, for those who don't know, Creighton's up 78-43 against Houston Baptist and the Basil brothers from Lincoln Northeast High Schools, who I watched play a whole lot of basketball in Lincoln over the years. So there you go. All right, let's wrap it so you guys can get going and get out of there with your stuff. That is it for After Nebrasketball. Thank you all for joining us. Whether you're watching on the I-80 Club YouTube or on the Husker Max YouTube, like and subscribe, please, so you know when we're going live next time. Next time we will be live for After Nebrasketball is going to be on Sunday. Obviously, Bigelow's going to be there at the Pentagon, where Nebraska basketball has had much success over the years, and try and keep that going. So we'll have him live and there to give us reports after the game. Kaleb and I will be back here in Lincoln, and same thing, we'll start about 15 minutes after the game ends at the Pentagon. And guys, I don't know if you've heard this for sure yet, but we gained a few followers on the I-80 Club page, the subscribers. If we get to 500, a promise has been made. We will put the live camera on me for the entirety of the Nebraska-Creighton game. And we will let everyone have their way with that, okay? Whatever that means. So if you want to see that, or you have Creighton fans who want to see that, or have Nebraska fans who want to see it if it goes really well, make sure and get them to like and subscribe to the I-80 Club YouTube page, because it's going to be wild. So there you go. All right, that's it. Anything else, guys, before we wrap?
Nope. I'm excited to get Bigelow on the road on Sunday, but Jack, of course, you and I will be back on Friday with another Nebrasketball brunch, 11 a.m. Central.
All right. There you go. We will be back here at that point. Apparently, my son is chatting in the YouTube chat after disrupting the show behind you guys. Sorry about that. My apologies. I'm not a good parent. All right. We'll see you next time on After Nebrasketball on Sunday. Don't forget, join Kaleb and I at brunch on Friday, and then Josh and I will get going on Saturday after the USC game at about 9 o'clock on Saturday night for Saturday Night I-80 in the Club After Dark. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.